By the time darkness fell, they were back at their previous campsite, and Medwin was dancing around wearing one of the silver cups on his head.
We of the Rogmel Keen team have gone into battle, and we've emerged victorious. Let no one call us weak due to our small size, for we are champions of our time.
You said it, Medwin.
Satchu raised his flask in Medwin's direction before tipping it down and taking a long drink. Medwin tried to bow towards Satchu, but the cup slipped down, and in the process of trying to catch it, he fell over in a heap. Satchu couldn't help but laugh at him and helped him to his feet. Medwin relinquished the floor to the three non-magic girls who started singing the kingdom's anthem while throwing sticks at Jeff, who was already asleep. Satchu looked around for Audie and noticed her sitting off to the side where she'd been the night before.
I'll be right back,
he told Medwin. He got up quietly so as not to disturb the girl's song and sauntered over to where Audie was.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm okay.
That blast was so strange. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know how you kept your shields up.
Audie shrugged.
I'm just really good at shields.
Satchu nodded.
Who'd you get it from? Your mom or your dad?
Audie didn't answer for a moment, but finally replied, although she wouldn't meet Satchu's eyes.
I don't know. My parents died when I was really young and another family adopted me. They refused to tell me anything about my real parents.
She gave a shallow laugh.
They don't even know I'm here. They told me I wasn't allowed to perform magic. They think I'm at a camp right now.
Satchu was taken aback. His parents were both mages and encouraged him in all his endeavours. He felt a great deal of pity for this poor girl who was held back from her potential by her overprotective parents. Suddenly, Audie glared up at him.
I know what you're doing.
Satchu was confused.
What? I'm not doing anything.
Audie bolted to her feet.
Don't lie to me. I can sense it. I'm an empath too.
Her voice then lowered to a snarl.
I don't need your pity.
With that, she turned off and stalked into the forest. Satchu stood there, mouth hanging open for a moment before his teacher's voice broke his daze.
Satchu, you caused this. You need to fix it. Go find her and bring her back.
Satchu nodded to his instructor and set off after the girl.
What am I supposed to say to her? Gee, I'm sorry I pitied you. Who does she think she is? It's natural when people hear a sad story to feel sympathy and pity towards the victim in it all. Surely as an empath she knows that. Besides, how was I supposed to know she was an empath? It's a rare gift. Usually only healers have it. Stupid girl. Thought she was really something, so she got all defensive.
Satchu finally stopped ranting and checked his direction. He was a decent tracker, but he couldn't see any signs that she'd been through here. However, Mage Sight revealed a different story. It was faint, but there was just enough of a trail for him to follow. He followed her mage aura for about an hour when he heard a commotion up ahead.
Audie?
He quickened his pace when he got a bad feeling about what was going on. No sooner had he had this thought than an ear-piercing scream rang out.
Audie!
He took off in a direction where he'd heard her cry, and 10 seconds later, he stumbled into a clearing where he saw a bewildering sight. A dozen men were brandishing crossbows, each one loaded with a golden-tipped arrow. One man was no longer holding his, since he was now tying up an unconscious Audie, who appeared to be bleeding from a shoulder wound, but he paused when he became aware of Satchu's intrusion.
No witnesses! Kill him!
Satchu's training barely kicked in before he was pelted with arrows. Luckily, his shields held, and he quickly returned the greeting with mage arrows of his own. Most of them hit their marks, but none well enough to bring down any of the men. 2 of the men appeared to be mages, as they had been able to shield against his attack. They quickly engaged him in one of the toughest battles he'd ever been in, but thanks to his training, he was able to hold them off. The only problem was that the other men were leaving, the leader with Audie slung over his shoulder, and there was nothing Satchu could do to stop them. Suddenly, a powerful blue blast flew past Satchu and slammed into one of the men. With only one opponent now, Satchu was able to quickly produce a similar blast that took out the second mage. As soon as he did, Master Guyon ran out of the woods and over to the fallen men. While he stopped to inspect them, he called over his shoulder to Satchu.
Don't let them get away, but also be on the lookout for Medwin. He's already following them.
Satchu nodded and dashed into the forest, following the trail of blood someone was leaving behind. It seemed like he'd been running forever when the trees suddenly stopped. Before him was a 70-foot-high cliff with a huge cave opening at the bottom, with a trail of blood leading right inside. Satchu paused for a moment before sending out a tendril of power to make sure the place didn't have any shields. Amazingly enough, there was a shield, but it was extremely weak. Satchu couldn't figure out why anyone would even bother putting up such a weak shield.
Is it shielded?
Satchu turned at the sound of Medwin's voice, seeing the boy emerge from the forest.
Yeah, but not very well.
Coming alongside the mage, Medwin asked,
So can you break through it?
Satchu blinked.
Sure, but shouldn't we wait for Master Guyon? We don't know what's in there.
Medwin scowled.
Audie's in there. That's all that matters.
Satchu was slightly taken aback by his friend's extreme seriousness, and something about it gave Satchu a burst of courage.
You're right. That is all that matters.
The young mage turned and blasted apart the weak shield and dashed inside with Medwin right behind him. They ran down the tunnels until they came to a fork. Satchu used his mage sight to look for Audie's aura. To his surprise, it seemed to go down 2 of the tunnels. The third didn't show any trace of magic at all.
Our trail goes down 2 of the tunnels. What should we do?
Medwin frowned.
I don't know, but I've got a feeling that something really major is going on here.
You're right.
Said a voice behind them.
On shielding and camouflage. The differences were that they didn't have the ability to teleport. That's what happens when you stuff up a in a thing and a thing.